A broke nurse was forced to marry a dying billionaire, but when he miraculously survived, he fell. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. A broke nurse was forced to marry a dying billionaire. She had no idea that this decision would change her life forever. Meet Anna Monroe. She was a nurse at Westbridge Private Hospital, living paycheck to paycheck. Anna had always wanted to help people, but lately, the weight of her responsibilities was getting harder to bear. Her mother was ill, and her father had passed away years ago. There was no one to help her but herself, and every day felt like a battle to keep things together. She was behind on bills, her car was barely running, and the looming threat of eviction was just one missed paycheck away. One fateful day, Anna was called into Dr. Harris's office. The head of neurology at the hospital was usually all business, but today, there was a strange seriousness in his tone. "Anna," he began, "I need someone strong for this case. A billionaire, Grant Carter, was in a severe car accident. He's been in a coma for months, and his family isn't involved much. We need someone dedicated, someone who will truly care for him." Anna had heard of Grant Carter. The name was all over the news. He was one of the youngest billionaires in the city, known for his ruthless business deals and cold demeanor. The idea of being the one to care for him didn't seem appealing at first. She had no personal stake in his life. But Dr. Harris made it clear, this was a special case. And Anna, desperate for work and feeling the pressure, reluctantly agreed. When she walked into his private suite, she was taken aback. The room was more like a luxury apartment than a hospital room. Plush carpets, velvet curtains, and soft lighting contrasted sharply with the sterile surroundings of the rest of the hospital. But the man, lying in the bed, was unrecognizable. Tubes and wires were connected to him, and his once strong body now looked frail and lifeless. Anna set down her bag and walked over to him. His chest rose and fell with the steady beep of the machines, but he was a stranger to her. For the first few days, she simply did her job, bathing him, checking his vitals, and changing his sheets. It was routine, cold, and mechanical. She tried talking to him, hoping her voice would somehow reach him. "I'm not sure you can hear me, but I'll keep talking anyway," she said, wiping his forehead with a damp cloth. "I don't know why I'm doing this. Maybe I'm just used to talking to myself." But every day, she felt a strange connection. She couldn't explain it, but something about him felt familiar, like there was more to this man than just the billionaire persona. The more she spoke to him, the more she began to believe he might be listening. Days turned into weeks, and Anna's routine became more personal. She would bring him his favorite books, hoping that somehow it would help. One day, as she was adjusting his pillow, something unexpected happened. His fingers twitched. At first, she thought she imagined it, but then she saw it again. This time, she couldn't ignore it. She called Dr. Harris immediately. The doctor didn't believe her at first, but the signs were there. Slowly, Grant's condition improved. He began to move his hands, then his feet. His eyes fluttered open for the first time in months, and Anna couldn't believe what she was seeing. The man who had once been an untouchable billionaire was now staring at her, confused but alive. "What happened?" he asked, his voice rough from disuse. "You're awake," Anna whispered, her heart racing. "You're going to be okay." But as Grant's health improved, so did their connection. Anna couldn't help but notice the way he looked at her now. It was different, more intense. She had been caring for him out of duty, but now, she was beginning to feel something deeper, something she had never expected. As the days passed, Grant's recovery continued at an extraordinary rate. He no longer needed constant care, and soon, he was walking again. But Anna couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a physical recovery. It was emotional, too, and she was beginning to realize that her feelings for him were changing. She was no longer just his caregiver. She was starting to care about him in ways she hadn't anticipated. One evening, after he had finished his physical therapy, Grant asked her to stay a little longer. "I owe you my life, Anna," he said, his voice sincere. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Anna smiled, but inside, her heart was conflicted. She hadn't signed up for this. She had only come here to do a job, and now, It felt like her life was being rewritten. She was falling for him, and she knew it wasn't supposed to happen. What started as a simple act of caring for a dying man was now turning into something far more complicated. Anna didn't know where this was going, but one thing was certain. Her life had already changed forever. As the days passed, Anna's routine became more familiar. She continued to care for Grant, helping him with his rehabilitation, but it was more than just physical care now. He had regained some strength, but it was clear he was still far from his old self. Each day, he seemed to get a little better. The doctors were amazed at his progress, but it wasn't just the medical team that was noticing the changes. Anna could see it too. His sharp blue eyes, once clouded by the fog of illness, were becoming clearer, more focused. And she couldn't deny it anymore. Her feelings for him were growing. They were undeniable. He wasn't just the billionaire lying in a hospital bed anymore. He was Grant, the man who had captured her heart with every thoughtful gesture, every quiet moment shared between them. Anna found herself staying a little longer each day. She started bringing him his favorite books, just like she had before, but now they would talk about them. His voice was still weak, but it carried a depth she hadn't expected. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Grant looked over at her. "You've been here every day," he said softly, his gaze locking with hers. "Why?" Anna shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to answer. She had never been good at showing vulnerability, but somehow, she felt safe with him. "Because it's my job," she said quickly, "and because I want to help you." Grant didn't say anything for a moment, but his eyes didn't leave hers. It felt like there was more he wanted to say, but instead, he just nodded. The silence between them felt heavy, but not in a bad way. They had reached a new understanding, something unspoken. The next few days brought more progress. Grant was walking again, albeit with a cane, but he was improving every day. Anna had seen firsthand how strong he was, both physically and emotionally. Despite everything he had been through, he never once complained. He was, in many ways, a different man than the one she had heard about before. But as Grant grew stronger, Anna couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. She had been falling for him, and she knew it wasn't supposed to happen. He was her patient. She was just his nurse. There were lines, boundaries, rules that she knew she shouldn't cross. But those lines felt blurry now. She couldn't ignore the way his hand would brush against hers when he reached for a book, or the way he would smile at her with those deep, soulful eyes. One afternoon, after a long day of physical therapy, Grant surprised her. He asked her to stay after hours, just for a little while longer. "Anna," he said, his voice low, "I know I've never really said this, but I want you to know that I'm grateful for everything you've done for me." Anna looked at him, unsure of how to respond. "It's my job," she said quietly, but her words felt hollow now. She knew that there was more between them than just a professional relationship. "I know," Grant replied, "but you've done so much more than that. You've saved me in ways that no one else could. You've been here for me, day in and day out, without asking for anything in return." His words hit Anna like a ton of bricks. She felt a lump form in her throat, and for the first time since she had started working with him, she allowed herself to truly feel the weight of what they had been through together. Grant reached out and gently placed his hand on hers, his touch warm and comforting. "I want to make it up to you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I want to show you that I care." Anna's heart raced. She wanted to believe him, but a small voice in her head reminded her of the boundaries that still existed. She couldn't get too close. It wasn't right. But as she looked into his eyes, she felt a warmth spread through her chest, and for a moment, the world outside their bubble didn't seem to matter. All that mattered was the connection between them. The next morning, Anna returned to her normal routine, but she couldn't stop thinking about the night before. She found herself questioning everything she had believed in. Could she truly have a future with Grant? Or was this just another fleeting moment, another spark that would fizzle out? As the days went on, their relationship continued to evolve. They spent more time together, talking about their pasts, their dreams, and the future. Grant had told her about his business empire, his struggle to maintain control, and his fear of losing everything. Anna had shared her own struggles, how she had worked so hard to get to where she was, how she feared for her family's future, how she had spent so many years building walls around her heart. Through it all, they had found common ground. They both knew what it felt like to lose something important, to fight for something bigger than themselves. And as their bond deepened, Anna couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, they could build something together. But even as the days passed and they grew closer, there was a part of Anna that held back. She was afraid of what would happen if she let herself truly fall for him. Would it change everything? Would she regret it? She didn't know. But one thing was clear. She couldn't stay in this in-between space forever. As the days passed, Anna felt the weight of her growing feelings for Grant press on her chest more and more. She had told herself that this was just a temporary situation, that it was her job, and nothing more. But as they spent more time together, her resolve began to crumble. The way he looked at her, the kindness in his voice, the moments when their hands brushed, she couldn't deny it any longer. She was falling for him. And he, too, was showing signs that he cared about her in a way that went beyond a patient-nurse relationship. Every day, Grant seemed to find new ways to make her feel special. Whether it was a thoughtful comment about the books she brought him, or a quiet gesture, like making her favorite tea after a long shift, Anna couldn't help but feel her heart warm toward him. One evening, as she sat by his bedside, reviewing his medical charts, Grant broke the silence. "Anna," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I need to ask you something." Anna looked up, her heart skipping a beat. "What is it?" He hesitated for a moment, his gaze flickering between her eyes and the floor. "Do you ever wonder what your life would be like if you weren't stuck in this cycle? If you weren't just getting by, always fighting for your next paycheck, always struggling to help your family?" Anna felt a pang in her chest. It was a question she had asked herself countless times. The weight of responsibility for her family, the fear of losing everything, the exhaustion from constantly feeling like she was falling short. She knew all too well what he was talking about. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Every day," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Grant looked at her with a mixture of concern and understanding. "I see it in your eyes, Anna. You carry so much on your shoulders, and you don't deserve to." His words hit her harder than she expected. For the first time in a long while, someone who wasn't family, was acknowledging the burden she carried. It felt like a weight had been lifted, just a little. "I don't know what to do with all of this," Anna said, her voice trembling slightly. "I never imagined this feeling. I told myself it was just my job, but now I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. My heart is telling me one thing, but my mind is saying another." Grant's eyes softened as he reached out, taking her hand in his. His grip was warm, strong, and comforting. "You don't have to figure it all out right now, Anna. I'm not asking for anything from you, except for you to be honest with yourself." Her heart raced as she looked at him. She had been trying so hard to keep her distance, to remind herself that she was just a nurse doing her job. But now, with the way he was looking at her, the way his hand held hers, it felt impossible to ignore what had been growing between them. "Grant, Anna started, but her words caught in her throat. She had never allowed herself to feel so vulnerable, so open to someone like this. But there was something about Grant, his presence, his sincerity, that made it impossible to hide her emotions anymore. "I want to be honest with you, too," Grant said quietly. "I'm not who I was before the accident. I've spent my life building an empire, but I've also spent it alone, surrounded by people who only care about my money or my success. You've shown me something different. You've shown me what it means to care, to really care for someone beyond what they can give you." Anna felt a lump in her throat. She hadn't expected him to say something like that. She had assumed he would always be the distant billionaire, the man who only saw her as a nurse. But now, she realized how wrong she had been. "I don't know what's going to happen after this," Grant continued, his voice steady. "But I do know that I want you to be a part of my life, Anna. Not just as my nurse, but as something more. I've been given a second chance at life, and I want to spend it with you." Anna's breath caught in her throat as she processed his words. She had been so afraid of getting too close, of letting herself feel anything for him. But now, she saw the truth in his eyes. He wasn't just thanking her for saving his life. He was offering her a new chance, too. A chance to live for something more than just survival. A chance to take a risk and open her heart to someone who truly saw her. "Grant, I don't know if I'm ready for this," she said, her voice soft but filled with uncertainty. "But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to take that step with you." His eyes lit up as he squeezed her hand, the warmth of his touch sending a wave of emotion through her. "That's all I'm asking for, Anna. One step at a time." As the days passed, their relationship continued to grow. They spent more time together outside the hospital, going for walks, having long conversations about their pasts, and slowly, inch by inch, learning to trust one another. For the first time in years, Anna allowed herself to dream of something beyond survival. And for the first time, she could see a future where love, not fear, would guide her path. As Anna and Grant's bond grew stronger, so did the complexities of their relationship. They had begun to open up to each other in ways that neither had expected. Every conversation, every shared moment, only brought them closer. Yet, in the back of Anna's mind, there was still that lingering fear, that doubt. What would happen when the hospital was no longer their shared space? What would happen once Grant fully recovered, once he no longer needed her as his nurse? Would he see her as more than just someone who cared for him during his weakest moments? Or would he slip back into the life he had before, one where people only cared about his wealth and status? Despite these uncertainties, Anna allowed herself to enjoy the moments they shared. They went for walks in the park, something Grant had never had the chance to do before his accident. His recovery was nothing short of miraculous, and he was quickly regaining his strength, both physically and emotionally. Anna couldn't help but notice the change in him. He wasn't just the cold, calculating billionaire anymore. He was someone who seemed to genuinely care about her, someone who had softened because of the time they had spent together. One evening, after a particularly long day at the hospital, Grant asked Anna to stay with him after hours. It was a simple request, but it felt different this time, like something more was at stake. She agreed, of course, knowing she was already too deeply invested in him to turn back. They sat in his private suite, the soft lighting casting a warm glow around them, as the quiet hum of the city outside provided the backdrop. Anna, Grant said, breaking the silence. There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Anna looked up, her heart racing as she braced herself for what was to come. What is it? Grant hesitated, his eyes searching hers as if looking for the right words. I know we've talked about the future, and I know that we're still figuring things out. But I need you to know something. I want you in my life, Anna. Not just because you saved me, but because I'm starting to realize something important. I don't want to go back to the way things were before. I don't want to go back to being alone. Anna's breath caught in her throat. She had suspected that Grant felt something for her, but hearing him say it out loud made everything feel more real. She had always thought that a relationship with someone like him was impossible, that the gap between their worlds would always keep them apart. But now, sitting in front of him, she realized that her feelings for him were just as real, just as deep. Grant, Anna started, but her words faltered. What could she say? How could she express everything she had been feeling without sounding foolish? She had never been good at expressing herself, especially when it came to matters of the heart. He smiled softly, sensing her hesitation. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know that I don't want to rush anything. We don't have to have all the answers right now. But I want to take this step with you, if you're willing. Anna nodded slowly, her heart swelling with emotion. She had always been the one to hold back, to keep herself guarded. But with Grant, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope for the future. Hope for a life that wasn't dictated by her struggles and fears, but one where love could be at the center. I'm willing, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I want this too. The relief that washed over Grant's face was immediate. He leaned forward and gently kissed her hand, the tenderness of the gesture sending a wave of warmth through her. They sat there for a while, simply enjoying each other's company in comfortable silence. As the weeks went by, their relationship deepened further. Anna started spending less time at the hospital, her shifts becoming shorter as she and Grant began to build a life outside of those sterile walls. They took weekend trips together, exploring the city and the surrounding countryside, and each time they returned, their connection felt even stronger. But as their relationship blossomed, there was always the shadow of Grant's past hanging over them. He had built an empire, but he had also built walls. Walls around his heart, walls around his life. Anna knew that the real test of their relationship would come when they faced the world outside the bubble they had created together. One day, as they walked through the park, Grant stopped and turned to face her. Anna, he said, his voice serious, I need you to know that I'm ready for whatever comes next. But I also know that we have to face the reality of my life. The business, the family, all the expectations. It's not going to be easy. I can't promise it will be perfect, but I can promise you this. I want to face it all with you. Anna took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words. She had known that this day would come, the day when the reality of his world would intrude on their private life. But in that moment, as she looked into his eyes, she knew that they could face it together. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a team. I'm ready, Anna said, her voice steady. We'll figure it out together. And with that, they continued their walk, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future had in store for them. As Anna and Grant's relationship continued to develop, they faced new challenges that were inevitable for two people from such different worlds. While their connection was deep and their bond was undeniable, the outside world was beginning to intrude on their peaceful, secluded life. Grant's family, his business empire, and all the responsibilities that came with his wealth were things Anna had always known would eventually come to the surface. But as the days went by, she couldn't shake the feeling that their love story was heading toward a test she wasn't sure they could pass. It was one chilly evening when Grant received a call that changed everything. Anna was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, when she saw the tension on his face as he answered the phone. He was quiet, his expression hardening as the conversation went on. When he hung up, he took a deep breath and turned to Anna. We need to talk, Grant said, his voice low, the weight of whatever he had just heard hanging in the air. Anna felt her stomach tighten. What happened? It's about the company, Grant said, running a hand through his hair. There's a shareholder meeting coming up, and they want me to make some major decisions that could affect everything I've built. Anna nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I know how important your business is to you, Grant. But how does this affect us? Grant hesitated, clearly torn. They want me to take a more public role, to expand the company globally. It's a massive opportunity, but it means more exposure, more pressure, and it will pull me away from everything I've come to care about, including you. Anna felt a knot form in her chest. She knew that the business world Grant was part of was ruthless, but hearing him say it out loud, knowing that he was being pulled back into that world, made her realize how far apart their worlds truly were. You're saying that this could mean you're too busy for me? Anna asked, her voice barely a whisper. Grant stepped closer to her, his eyes filled with regret. I'm not saying I want to be too busy for you. I'm saying that I might not have a choice. The people I've surrounded myself with, they've been waiting for me to make this move. If I don't, I risk losing everything. Anna swallowed hard, trying to process everything. She had always known that Grant's life was more complicated than her own, but she never imagined how heavy the burden could be. She had seen him work so hard to recover, to build a life after the accident, and now it seemed like everything was coming to a head. Grant, I don't know if I can handle this, Anna said, her voice trembling. I thought we were building something real here, but now it feels like I'm just one part of your life, and I don't know if I fit in with all of this. Grant reached for her, gently cupping her face in his hands. Anna, please understand. I'm not choosing my business over you. I'm trying to find a way to balance both, to keep you in my life, but this is my reality. It's not just about money or power. It's about responsibility, legacy, and the people who rely on me. Anna closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his hands on her face soothe her for a moment. She had always been the one to carry her own burdens, never asking for help, never depending on anyone else. But with Grant, it was different. She didn't want to be the one left behind, clinging to the pieces of a relationship that couldn't survive the pressures of his world. I don't know what to say, Grant, she whispered, the tears welling in her eyes. I don't want to lose you, but I don't know how to be part of this world. Grant's heart broke as he saw the fear and uncertainty in her eyes. He had never wanted to hurt her, but he knew that the world he was part of was demanding, and it was pulling him in directions he couldn't control. We'll figure it out, he said softly, his thumb brushing away the tear that had fallen down her cheek. We have to. You and me, Anna. We'll face whatever comes together. But Anna couldn't shake the fear that gripped her heart. She loved Grant with everything she had, but the reality of their worlds was so different. He was a billionaire, with a legacy to uphold, and she was just a nurse, with her own family to take care of. Could their love survive when the weight of his responsibilities began to crush them both? The days that followed were filled with uncertainty. Grant was consumed by the upcoming meeting, the decisions that would shape the future of his company, and Anna was left to wonder if their love could truly endure the pressures that were now pulling at them. She spent hours thinking about what he had said, how he wanted to make it work, how he didn't want to lose her. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized how much their worlds were pulling them apart. Then, one evening, as she sat alone in the quiet of their apartment, she made a decision. She would give him space, let him figure out what he needed to do with his business. But she couldn't be the one to stand in the way of his future. If they were meant to be together, she had to let him choose what was best for him, even if that meant facing the possibility of losing him. As the tension between them grew, Anna knew one thing for sure. Love was never simple, and sometimes the hardest part was knowing when to hold on and when to let go. As the days passed, Anna and Grant found themselves drifting apart in ways they hadn't expected. The space between them grew not because they didn't care for each other, but because the reality of their worlds was becoming too difficult to ignore. Anna had spent days thinking about what Grant had said, that he didn't want to lose her, that he wanted to find a way to balance both his responsibilities and their relationship. She wanted to believe him, but as she watched him bury himself in work, the distance between them felt more pronounced. The late nights at the office, the meetings, the calls, all of it was consuming him, and Anna couldn't help but feel like she was slowly being left behind. It wasn't that Grant didn't try to make time for her. He did. He still made little gestures, like sending her flowers or taking her out to dinner when he could, but there was always something in the back of his mind that kept him distracted. The more he immersed himself in his business, the more Anna realized how little she was becoming a priority. It hurt more than she cared to admit, but she didn't know how to bring it up without sounding needy or demanding. She had always been independent, always carried her own weight, and for once, she didn't want to be the one who clung to someone else's dreams. Grant, on the other hand, was feeling the weight of his choices. Every day felt like a battle between his desire to be with Anna and his obligations to the business that had taken over his life. The decisions he had to make for the company were difficult, but it wasn't just the business that was on his mind. It was Anna. The thought of losing her, of seeing her walk away, was more painful than he cared to admit. But the more he focused on securing his future, the more he felt like he was losing her. One afternoon, as the sun was beginning to set, Grant asked Anna to meet him at the park, a quiet, peaceful spot they used to visit when they first started spending time together. Anna agreed, but as she walked toward the park, a sinking feeling settled in her stomach. She didn't know what Grant was about to say, but she had a feeling that it would change everything. When she arrived, she saw him sitting on the bench, his face clouded with thought. He looked up. As she approached, his eyes filled with the kind of uncertainty she hadn't seen in him before. "Anna," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I've realized something important." Anna sat down beside him, her heart racing. "What is it?" Grant paused, looking down at his hands before meeting her gaze. "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep living my life like this, caught between two worlds, pulling you in and out of my chaos. You deserve someone who can be fully there for you. Someone who isn't constantly battling with what feels like an impossible situation. I don't want you to feel like you're just a part of my life. I want you to feel like you are my life." Anna's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she thought she had misunderstood him. Was he telling her it was over? Was he giving up on them? "Grant, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that I need to make a choice," Grant said, his voice firm but filled with regret. "I need to choose you, Anna. I need to stop putting the business first. I've been so focused on building this empire, but I've realized that it's all meaningless if I lose the one person who truly makes me happy. I've been living in the shadows of my own success, and I've neglected the one thing that actually matters." Tears welled up in Anna's eyes as she listened to him speak. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment when Grant finally realized what truly mattered. But even as she felt a surge of relief, she also felt fear. Could she really be with someone who had lived such a different life? Someone whose world was filled with so much complexity? "I don't know if I can just let go of everything," Anna said, her voice shaky. "I've been holding on to this idea of us, but I don't know if it's enough to overcome everything else. I don't know if I can just walk into your world, where everything is so different from mine." Grant reached out, taking her hand in his. "I know it's not going to be easy, Anna. I'm not asking you to give up everything you've worked for, but I am asking you to give us a chance, together. We don't have to have all the answers right now, but I want to build something real with you. I want to share my life with you, without the distractions, without the pressure. Anna squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with a mix of emotions. She had always wanted this, but now that it was being offered, she wasn't sure if she could take that leap. Could she truly step into his world, with all its complications and challenges? Or would it be too much for her to handle? "I want to try, Grant," she whispered, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. "I want to try and build a life with you, but I need you to be fully in it. No more distractions, no more business meetings at midnight. I need to know that I matter just as much as your work does." Grant nodded, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I promise you, Anna, I will make it work. You matter more to me than anything else, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove that to you." As they sat there together, hands intertwined, Anna knew that this was just the beginning. They had a long road ahead of them, full of challenges and uncertainties, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they would face whatever came their way, and this time, they would do it side by side. As the weeks passed, Anna and Grant began to build a life together that was full of new challenges, but also new hope. Grant had kept his promise to her. He made a conscious effort to step away from the overwhelming demands of his business and focus on their relationship. He was present, truly present, in a way that Anna hadn't believed possible. The late nights at the office were replaced by quiet dinners at home, the constant calls and meetings by long walks in the park, and moments of deep connection that Anna had longed for. She could see the effort Grant was putting into their relationship, and it made her heart swell with affection. But even as things were improving, there was an underlying tension in Anna's mind. She had fallen in love with Grant, but she couldn't help but feel a certain level of fear creeping in. Could this really work? Could they maintain this balance between his world, so full of responsibilities and pressure, and her own simple, grounded life? The reality was, no matter how hard they tried, their worlds were still fundamentally different. Grant was a billionaire CEO with an empire to run, while Anna was just a nurse trying to make a living and care for her family. The differences in their lives were vast, and despite their love, Anna sometimes wondered how long it would last before something broke, before they couldn't keep up the facade of harmony. One evening, Grant surprised her. They had just finished dinner when he stood up, his face filled with determination. "Anna," he said, his voice steady, "there's something I need to do. I've been thinking about this for a while now, and I know it's time." Anna looked at him, confused. "What are you talking about?" Grant smiled, though there was a trace of nervousness in his eyes. "I've made the decision. I'm stepping down from my role as CEO. I'm going to put my focus on what really matters, on us." Anna's heart skipped a beat. "What? Grant, you can't be serious." "I am," he said, walking toward her. "I've spent so much of my life chasing success, chasing an empire, thinking that's what would make me happy. But I've learned something important. It's not the business or the money that matters. It's the people we love. And I want to be here with you, Anna. I want to be present in your life, in our life, and not just as someone who's always distracted by work." Anna couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had never imagined Grant would make such a drastic decision. "But Grant, you've worked your whole life to build this company. How can you just walk away from it?" Grant reached for her hands, holding them gently. "Because I've come to realize that no amount of success or wealth can replace the love and connection we share. I've been so focused on the wrong things, and I don't want to lose what matters most." Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. She had always admired Grant's strength, his drive, his ambition. But to hear him say that he was willing to let go of everything for her, for their future, made her heart ache with emotion. "Grant, I don't know what to say. This is huge." Grant smiled softly, brushing a tear from her cheek. "You don't have to say anything, Anna. I just need you to know that I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us." The weight of his words hit Anna hard. She had been so afraid of losing him, of their worlds being too different to ever truly come together. But here he was, making the choice to step away from everything he had known to build a life with her. "I don't deserve this," Anna whispered, her voice shaking. "You've given up so much for me." Grant shook his head. "No, Anna. You're everything I've been looking for, even if I didn't know it at the time. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, not just as a fleeting moment, but as something real, something lasting." As they stood there, their hands intertwined, Anna realized that this was the moment she had been waiting for. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to be perfect, but it was real. They had both made choices, hard choices, that were leading them towards something deeper, something more meaningful. Over the next few months, Grant began transitioning out of his role at the company, handing over the reins to trusted colleagues who would continue his legacy. Anna supported him through the process, and though it was difficult, they worked together to create a new life for themselves, one where their love came first. The road wasn't always smooth. There were challenges, moments of doubt, and times when the pressure of their worlds tried to pull them apart. But through it all, they held on to each other. Their love became the foundation of everything they built together. And as Anna watched Grant, the man who had once been a distant, untouchable billionaire, become someone who would do anything for her, she realized that love had the power to change everything. It had the power to heal, to transform, and to create something beautiful, even in the face of life's greatest challenges. Anna knew that they still had a long journey ahead of them, but for the first time, she felt confident in their future. With Grant by her side, there was nothing they couldn't face together. They had both found something that neither had expected, a love that was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. As the months passed, Anna and Grant settled into their new life, and while their journey had been far from easy, it was clear that the decisions they had made were leading them towards something stronger and more enduring. Grant's decision to step away from his company had not been without its challenges. There were days when he questioned himself, when he wondered if he had made the right choice. But each time he looked at Anna, each time he saw the way she smiled at him, the doubts melted away. He had done what he needed to do. He had chosen her. Together, they found new ways to balance their lives. Grant, once a billionaire CEO consumed by his empire, was now building a life of simplicity and purpose that revolved around Anna and their future. He started a new business venture, one that was rooted in his passions and aligned with his values. He wasn't just about the money anymore. He was about making a difference, and that gave him a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. Anna, on the other hand, felt like she had finally found her place in the world. She had always been content with her job as a nurse, but now, with Grant by her side, she felt as though her life had taken on a new purpose. They supported each other in ways that went beyond anything either of them had imagined. They were partners, truly partners, and for the first time, Anna felt like she wasn't carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders alone. Their relationship wasn't perfect, of course. They had their share of arguments, of misunderstandings, and moments when the weight of their pasts threatened to pull them apart. But in those moments, they always came back to each other, remembering why they had chosen each other in the first place. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their new home, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Anna looked at Grant and asked, "Do you ever think about the past? About everything we've been through?" Grant turned to her, his gaze soft. "I think about it all the time," he said, his voice thoughtful. "But I don't let it control me anymore. I've made peace with it. I had to, in order to move forward with you." Anna nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. She had done the same. There were days when the memories of her struggles, her fears, felt overwhelming, but she had learned to let them go. The person she was now, the woman sitting beside Grant, was someone who had fought through the pain and come out stronger on the other side. "You've changed my life, Anna," Grant continued, his voice full of sincerity. "I never thought I could be this happy, this at peace. You've shown me what it means to truly live, not just exist." Anna smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "I feel the same way. I never thought I could have this kind of love in my life, but you've shown me that it's possible." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just enjoying the peace they had created together. It was in these quiet moments that Anna realized how far they had come. They had both given up so much to be with each other. Grant had walked away from a life of power and wealth, and she had let go of her own fears and insecurities. But the sacrifices had been worth it. They had built something real, something that wasn't based on the things they had or the status they held, but on the love they shared. As the days went on, Anna and Grant continued to grow together. They made plans for the future, talking about the life they wanted to create, the family they hoped to build. And through it all, they never lost sight of what truly mattered. Their love was their foundation, and no matter what challenges they faced, it was something that would always hold them up. Then, one afternoon, as Anna walked into the living room, she saw Grant sitting on the couch, holding something in his hands. It was a small box. He looked up at her, his eyes filled with emotion. "Anna," he said, his voice trembling slightly. I know we've been through a lot, and I know that life hasn't always been easy. But I also know that you're the best thing that has ever happened to me, and I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else. Will you marry me? Anna's breath caught in her throat as tears filled her eyes. She had never expected this, not like this. She had always imagined that one day, when the time was right, they would take this step together. But now, with Grant on one knee, offering her the world, it felt like everything had led to this moment. Yes, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Yes, I will marry you. Grant smiled, his eyes lighting up with joy as he slipped the ring onto her finger. In that moment, as they stood together, everything felt right. They had been through so much to get to this point. But now, standing on the threshold of a new chapter, Anna knew that they were ready for whatever came next. They had found each other, and they had found a love that was stronger than anything life could throw their way. And that was all that mattered. As Anna and Grant prepared for their wedding, they couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had brought them here. What started as an unlikely connection, built on trust, sacrifice, and a shared desire for something real, had grown into a love that neither of them could have ever imagined. They had both walked away from everything they once thought they wanted, the world of power, wealth, and ambition, for a life that was simpler, quieter, and full of meaning. And yet, in this new life, they had found more joy, more peace, and more love than they had ever known. The wedding day arrived with the promise of new beginnings. The small ceremony was everything Anna and Grant had dreamed of, intimate, meaningful, and filled with the people they loved most. There was no grand spectacle, no extravagant display of wealth. Instead, it was a day that celebrated the true essence of their relationship. Two people coming together, not because of what they had, but because of what they shared. Anna looked radiant as she walked down the aisle, her heart beating with excitement and joy. Grant stood at the altar, his eyes filled with admiration as he watched her approach. He had never been more certain of anything in his life. As Anna reached him, she took his hands in hers, and in that moment, it felt like time stood still. All the struggles, all the doubts, all the fears they had faced had led them to this point. I love you, Grant whispered, his voice full of emotion. I've never been more certain of anything. You are everything to me. Anna smiled, her heart full. I love you too, Grant. More than words can say, and I'm ready to spend the rest of my life with you. The ceremony was simple, but the vows they exchanged were powerful. They promised to support each other, to always be there, to face the world together, no matter what challenges life brought their way. As the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Grant kissed Anna softly, sealing the promise they had made to each other. Their wedding wasn't just the start of a new chapter. It was a testament to their resilience, to the love that had grown between them against all odds. After the ceremony, they celebrated with close friends and family, enjoying the warmth and joy that filled the air. The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches, and Anna and Grant couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude. For everything they had gone through, for every trial and triumph, they were here, together, stronger than ever. In the months that followed, Anna and Grant's life continued to unfold in ways they hadn't expected. Grant's decision to step away from his business had been the hardest thing he'd ever done, but it had brought them closer, and together, they built a future that was grounded in love, not in power or wealth. They traveled together, exploring new places, making new memories, and finding joy in the simple things. They supported each other through the ups and downs, growing together as individuals and as a couple. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when the pressures of life tried to pull them apart. But through it all, they had each other. They had learned that love wasn't just about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about showing up for each other, day in and day out, and being there, no matter what. Anna's heart was full as she looked at the life they had built. She had once feared that her dreams of love and happiness would always be out of reach. But now, with Grant by her side, she knew that anything was possible. And Grant, too, had found something he never thought he would. A love that was unconditional, unwavering, and more meaningful than any success or achievement. Together, they had created a life that was built on trust, sacrifice, and mutual respect. They knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. With every challenge, every victory, Every moment they shared, they were reminded that they had chosen each other. And that choice, that commitment, was the foundation of everything they would build in the years to come. As they stood side by side, looking toward the future, Anna and Grant knew that they had found something rare and beautiful, a love that was worth fighting for, no matter the cost.